Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, let me make sure I am up. Yes, I am up. Good. Congratulations is in order. Congratulations. Democrats have done extraordinarily well in the elections yesterday. Now, as to be expected, for the most part, that's all they wanted to talk about. The fact that they did well. They wanted to get over this kind of this hump. This, all of the bad news that's coming out about Uranium One, the investigations, and everything that's coming out about the Donald Brazil book and the bombshell. That, again, wasn't a bombshell because everybody knew. Just the fact that the last DNC leader came out and said so. What's not being talked about, or at least I don't think so, in the main news is this is not entirely a Democratic thing. What I mean is, in Virginia, it's true that Democrats cleaned up. If I'm not mistaken, in Fairfax County, Republicans may not have any seats. But let's add some caveats to all of this. This is less about who Democrats are and more so about who Republicans are, if I'm being honest. I think that's the takeaway. There's a poll that came out from CNN. Let's see if I can show it. That's not this. Favorable views of Democratic Party have dropped to their lowest mark in more than a quarter of a century of polling, according to new numbers from a CNN poll conducted by SSRS. This was conducted yesterday. Oh, this was essentially came out yesterday. Only 37% of Americans have a favorable opinion of Democrats, down from 44% in March of this year. A majority, 54%, have an unfavorable view, matching their highest mark in polls from CNN and SSRS, stretching back to 1992. Now, so the question becomes, what gives? How on earth could Democrats do this well in the election and yet be at a 37% poll review or polling at 37% favorable rating? It's because Republicans are down at 30%. And Donald Trump is ghastly. He is ghastly. I can't speak for every other state. But Northern Virginia, I don't know if anyone knows about Northern Virginia here. Northern Virginia is extraordinarily multicultural. I worked at a company in Northern Virginia. I think there was like one white person at that company. Everybody else was either Middle Eastern, Asian, or, well, in this case, African American. So you can imagine if you have a large community of people who are multicultural at Fairfax, and you have this governor running a campaign when he's going full bore at this thing of, sanctuary cities and all this other stuff, ginning up this kind of resentment. Yeah, those people are going to have some feelings about you running a campaign in that particular way. And those people came out to make their feelings known. That's the first point. The second point is, I've made this argument for a while, where I've said I really want progressives to get their shit together, because depending on how ghastly Donald Trump is, a ham sandwich will be able to get elected. That doesn't mean that all of these people were essentially ham sandwiches. It just means that Donald Trump can be so ghastly that you can run into a situation where pretty much anybody can get in that office. I honestly, I don't think I've made the case before. Anybody other than Hillary Clinton could beat Donald Trump. It didn't take that much to get over the hurdle. That's why it's fascinating that Hillary Clinton wrote a book talking about what happened. The idea that you would still be around after losing to Donald Trump is astonishing. But beyond that, progressives have successes also, or who you call leftists or whatever else. Our revolution did amazingly well. Now, that depends on whether or not people determine if they believe that any activity in the Democratic Party, in that sense, is a good or bad thing. Some of those people were socialists, some of those people were far to the left, and those people got in. And let's show that list, because that list is pretty abundant. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, there we are. These are our revolution candidates. all of these people won from and were supported by our revolution. Now, I can't vouch for each and every one of these people because I don't know each and every one of these people. What I would say is that there are some people who ran their campaigns blisteringly to the left, and those people clean house, including, like I said, one of these guys in Virginia was a socialist. And the wild part about it is the Democratic Party essentially pulled support from the guy, and the guy still cleaned house. Ran as an unabashed socialist. Medicare for all, universal health care, Medicare for all, college, etc., etc., etc. I got to be honest. I look at this night and I think to myself, what does 2018 look like? Because ultimately, that's what it boils down to, and that's what we're talking about. I don't know. Beforehand, my assumption was 2018 to 2020 would be a war, meaning that you're going to have people on the left fighting to take that party over. And you're probably going to have, in 2020, a major left challenger trying to take over the head of the party. Now, whether that works or not, I don't know. What I would say is, depending on how ghastly and how horrible Donald Trump is, it will drive polls. And just to back this up, one of the poll results that I saw, exit polls, had, this was in Virginia, of the people who came out to vote, that put in a vote for, I'm saying this wrong, of the people that voted Democrat, 80% of which, no, I'm saying this wrong. Oh, I know what it was. Of the people that voted, 86%, I'm saying this horribly wrong, but what it boils down to is, of the people who voted Democrat, it was something like 86% dislike Trump. Or of the people that dislike Trump, 86% voted Democrat. Now, that is immensely problematic if you're a Republican. Think about that. Of the people that voted Democrat, 86%. Of the people that voted Democrat, 86% dislike Trump. Or of the people that dislike Trump, 86% voted Democrat. That should scare the shit out of Republicans. That should scare the shit out of Republicans. That means in an off-year election, you've terrorized people so much, you've pissed people off so much, that those people have been coming to the polls because they hate your guts. I would say leftists. Believe it or not, you have an opportunity here. I mean, the argument that was, well, Bernie Sanders, I mean, the guy was a socialist. There was no way he can run those districts. These people, many of these places were running far and hard to the left. Yes, you had the governor of Virginia, Northam, running as a centrist. Fiscal responsibility, that guy. And the guy in New Jersey was, again, some kind of corporatist type. But you did have candidates who essentially broke through, again, running to the left. Running to the left. I tend to think trauma and things going wrong is opportunity. From the beginning, I considered Trump to be an opportunity. And look, the question became two things, two options. Either burn the party to the ground and build something different, or you change the party. A lot of people will make the argument that our revolution is not changing the party. They're just controlled opposition, or they're just opposition that's going to be folded into the Democratic establishment. I don't know. That may or may not be true. What I would say is our revolution had a pretty damn good night last night. I would say the Democratic Party did extraordinarily well. I would also say, though, that that was more so indicative of who they weren't, not necessarily because of who they were. And there's a massive difference in those things. But that massive difference may not matter, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. Progressives either need to have their shit together by 2018 or 2020, or you're going to have a corporatist wave. Status quo forever. Status quo forever. Purely emboldened by this thing of who Donald Trump is not. We don't like Trump. We're terrified of Trump. Just get in the office. Get in the office. And you have one corporate shield saying, thank you very much. I will do just that. I will step into this office. You must understand, most of the public doesn't pay attention to politics. Most of the public just gets this kind of... I give an example. The guy who owns my company, he's... I'm not going to say his name, but he's a decent guy, good guy. And he's a lefty, even though he's a true blue Democrat. But he's a true blue Democrat, I would imagine, probably because he was born and raised being a true blue Democrat. Now, I don't say this is a bad thing. I say this just as programming. He's programmed to be this particular way based on the society that he's in. But he still tries to do the right thing. And I say this because I've sat in meetings with him where something came up, but I kind of was like, wait a minute. It sounds like you're trying to cheat somebody. Is that right? Is that the right thing to do? One guy was like, what are you, a socialist? And I was like, no, I'm not anything. I'm just saying, it sounds like you're trying to cheat somebody. Is it a capitalist thing to just cheat somebody outright? And he comes in, is like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to cheat anybody. I want to do the right thing. So I've always had good feelings towards him because I felt that ultimately he wanted to do the right thing. So I'm prefacing this. I'm saying this to show how you can be in a society, you can be programmed in a particular way. Your workable point of view is set and fixed in a particular way based on the society, the news, the information, and stuff that you take in. Status quo. Doesn't necessarily mean he wasn't necessarily trying to do the right thing. It's his point of view. He comes in one day. He knows I was supporting Sanders. He's like, you guys need to fall in line. You guys are throwing chairs. He was someone in the body. He's like, you guys are out there throwing chairs. He was like, what the hell are you guys doing? I was like, they weren't throwing chairs. You guys cheated. What the hell are you talking about? I was like, did you watch it? Did you actually watch the Nevada thing? He was like, no. Maybe you should watch it before you accuse somebody of throwing chairs. You fell for propaganda. Congratulations. Now, if that's him, and if ultimately he does try to do the right thing, meaning his fixed point of view is a particular way, and with that fixed point of view, he tries to do the right thing. And if that's the information that he's receiving, and he's like an antenna just goes off, like, these guys are throwing chairs. He's going off the propaganda. If that's him, what does that mean for the rest of the public? The rest of the public that's not necessarily trying to do the right thing, that's not all that paying attention to the news that comes out, and they get the bottom end of the news. They get the flavor of the news, not necessarily the actual news itself. What does the world look like to them? What does it look like to them? People use this term, quote unquote, woke. And I like the term. The more when I first heard it, yeah. It feels, the term feels slightly arrogant, if I'm being honest. But I understand the intent, or what the term is trying to say. There's certain people who are somewhat aware. It's like, holy shit, this is a game. Both of these people are in the game. They're just two wings of the same thing. Yeah, so yeah, these people consider themselves to a certain degree woke. The overwhelming majority of the public is not there. Which means that if somebody in a party that they themselves consider to be their party, or for that matter, maybe they don't consider it to be their party. Maybe they're just terrified of what's going on in the other party. They're not crazy to be terrified of what's going on in the other party. They are passing draconian and nasty tax cuts. They are trying to take away or cripple Obamacare, meaning more people are going to, millions are going to lose health care. They're doing these things. They're doing these things. They are trying to get rid of the estate tax, which only affects like 0.2% of the population. Not even 0.2, it's like 0.2 of 1%, some ridiculous number of the population, which is just a corporate giveaway. So they are doing these things. The people who look at this aren't necessarily wrong for saying, oh my God, look at what these people are doing when they're in office. The problem with that is it leaves them completely without any context for the other party. From their standpoint, oh my God, Republicans are batshit crazy. That part is true. It's just that Democrats are not your saviors. That's the catch. That's the game. That's the trick. One is insanely horrible. The other one is a little bit sweeter, but is doing most of the same things. The game is rigged. It gives you this idea that one is better than the other because one is slightly better than the other. Not realizing that the problem is, yes, this one is slightly better than the other, but you're still getting the same thing. You're still getting the same thing. But in this case, Democrats clean house. What does this mean for 2018 is the question, and we will find out. I will say it again. I really hope progressives get their shit together. And look, there is one more catch before bringing the audience. Even if you don't necessarily have candidates to run, even if you don't have candidates to run, meaning even if you don't have a situation where you can run Green Party candidates against Dems, or you can run other people who you believe are representing your interests, even if that doesn't take place, you at least need to have a groundswell of people being pulled into the process. And my fear is, if you get a bunch of corporatists in office, you're not going to get that. The public is going to go to sleep. They're going to be okay with the situation as the situation presents itself. The gross person that has the bad tone, that's doing the same things as any other Republican would do, will be in office. Their illusions will be secure. And you would get nothing. The tension and the pressure that you're getting with Donald Trump would fade away. That's my concern. That's my concern. It's this thing where I would prefer, when Donald Trump got elected, I thought to myself, at the very least, he would create enough chaos where he can create a groundswell of support for the other candidates. I mean, not candidates, but create a groundswell of support that tries to push the country to the left. And I thought that there could potentially be a pendulum swing depending upon how bad and gross he is in that office. Meaning, if he takes away healthcare, great. A lot of people are going to get hurt, but at the same token, those people are going to get single payer once Trump is taken out of that office on a rail. And along with single payer comes a bunch of other initiatives behind it. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's keep going. I hear you, Joan. I went to the DSA, Democrat Socialist of America. G. Gibson. Screw the corrupt DNC. Agreed. Joan Lavino. Amen. You should put an exclamation point behind that. Bob Ramirez. So Jamal joins Chink when he gets pink satin panties and the coastal fraud belt states complicit with Clinton crony scores from Tuesday wins. Yeah, I have done nothing of the such. My perspective of this was more so, if I'm being honest, it was kind of like, fuck. That was my perspective. When I saw the governor win, I voted for the Libertarian candidate. I voted for the Libertarian candidate. I agreed with the Green Party, with Magruder. I didn't want the Democrat to win. I felt that there would be more pressure added to the process if that guy lost. I felt more pressure would be added to the process if the guy lost. So no, there was no quote unquote panties being wet. Not too much. I didn't take that as a victory for myself at all. I saw our revolution, yeah, the Democratic Socialist candidate, yeah, I did consider that a good thing. And some of the lefty candidates, yeah, but governor, hell no. Some of those other guys, hell no. Hell no. Yeah, there was no panties wet. My existence is a momentary lapse of reason. Jamal seems like a reasonable, intelligent dude. I like his perspective. Oh, thank you. My existence is a momentary lapse of reason. I like your handle. I love it. My existence is a momentary lapse of reason. My existence is a momentary lapse of reason. I love that name. I love that title. What percentage of eligible voters turned out? Now that I don't know. That I don't know. Yeah, I don't have an answer to that question. Independent outsider. I am moving towards greens right now. That really needs structure, though. Agreed. Agreed. So when Magruder here, I asked him a question. I put the question to him. What the hell is wrong with the Greens? What is wrong with you guys? Now, the Greens always give this answer of, and I don't mean to bash the Greens. That's not where I'm going with this. But I am slightly bashing the Greens, so fair enough. It's always, well, the Democratic Party's keeping us out. That's true. That is true. The two parties vie for control, and they have a vested interest in keeping us out again. That's true. That is true. But is that an excuse? What I mean is, as a party, of course they're not going to let you in. They have no interest in letting you in. They have no leverage. You have no leverage to get them to let you in. Oh, I guess I should say you need leverage to get them to let you in. It's not as simple as, please just let me in for the, the voters want a third party. They don't give a shit about the voters. They care about getting elected. That's their interest. Their interest is to get in that office for whatever reasons they want to get in that office. If you're a Green Party, if you're any other party, you're causing issues with them doing that. They don't want you part of that process. They're going to do whatever they need to do to keep you out of the process. Like, you can't necessarily have the expectation that they're going to welcome you with open arms. Heidi Siegler, she put a video the other day saying how, I think it was in Maine, they had ranked choice voting, and the parties got rid of the ranked choice voting, even though the public essentially put it up for a referendum. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. So yeah, it's a lot of infrastructure. I still think Hillary could take Trump in a cage match. Maybe. Maybe. I think her balls are bigger than Trump. Joan Levino, a dumpster fire, could have beaten Trump, but not Hillary. Agreed. Agreed. They could have put up anybody. Like, Biden, for that matter, could have beat Trump. Anybody could have beat Donald Trump. But the guy was the easiest candidate to beat in the history of candidates. It's like there was one person out of the 320 million people in the United States that could lose to Donald Trump. And the Democratic Party found it in themselves to choose that particular candidate, to exceed the primaries, to lose to Donald Trump. That's amazing. It's like R. Kelly finding the one 15-year-old in a room full of, party goers. It's amazing. Glad to see you haven't become of the body, Mr. Thomas. Of the body. I don't know what that means. Of the body. Oh, I think I know what you mean. No, like I said, when I saw the governor thing, my response to Democrats winning was fuck. That was my blunt and honest response. By the same token, I have to give them credit because they did win. They cleaned house. I mean, what am I going to say? Am I going to come here pretend as if they didn't? They actually did a pretty decent job. They cleaned house. Again, I make the point it had nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with Donald Trump, which should be worrying for Republicans, the first part. But should also be something worrying for Democrats. It wasn't that they had a message. It wasn't that they had anything that drew people to the party. The poll that I just showed, 30% of the population. That's it. That's all they like the party. That was their approval rate, 30%. 37%. That's nothing to brag about. Republicans' approval was down to 30%. Again, nothing to brag about. Both parties are immensely hated. Among independents, that percentage was 8%. Just 8%. I would say the candidates that ran to the left, good. I'm glad you had my support. Even for the most part, our revolution, and like I said, I can't necessarily vouch for each and all of the candidates. Our revolution is a Sanders creation. So, part of me leans towards this idea that at the very least, these guys are lefties. Question on how left, I don't know. I would have to go person by person, and I don't necessarily want to go person by person, I'm being honest. I'm just saying, the Democrats actually did win pretty good last night. They did pretty good, at least in Virginia. Maryland Greens are strong. Joan, how many Greens are in office in Maryland? And I'm asking that question without knowing an answer to that question. Luca Clemente, we need to follow the voting records of these new progressive Democrats. Agreed. Debbie, and says they will be assimilated into the corporate hive mind the system demands of them. They will be assimilated. They will be assimilated. Look, Debbie may not be wrong on this. Here's your problem, or here's our problem, I should say. I live in this fucking country. Those people could go in office with the best of intentions. And if the public is not paying attention, meaning the people who put them in that office, if that public is not paying attention, those people can just be whoever they want to be. And all of these ideas and everything else they had could fade away the moment that the public does not have pitchforks at their door. People are hailing this as if it's some glorious win. And I keep making a point. There are times where these glorious wins boil down to just bitter depravity of sameness. I've been alive long enough to see a glorious win degrade and devolve into a bitter array of sameness. A bitter array of sameness. So this idea of celebrating Democratic wins, you see what they do in that office before you celebrate. That's what I would say. Debbie is not wrong. Debbie is not wrong at all. It's recent history anyway. A momentary lapse of reason. Are you actual socialists, i.e. believe in social ownership of means of production, or are you a socialist like Bernie Sanders, i.e. social democrat, more like a Scandinavian? I am neither. I am nothing. I don't necessarily have these ideas that society needs to conform around these kind of ideological terms. We have a real world. That real world has a certain carrying capacity that we could deal with, meaning there is a finite amount of resources on this planet. How you distribute those resources, the technology that you have, those are the things that are important. How you manage those things is what's important. What's the carrying capacity of the earth? Those are technical questions. Those aren't necessarily ideological questions. My issue with socialism, capitalism, these type of these things get into these ideological realms. And I guess you can make the argument that going with this kind of technocratic attitude that I like to go with, that's also this kind of ideological thing. Fair enough. But I'd argue that looking at the carrying capacity of the earth and trying to figure out, trying to conform your society around real things is a better alternative than just saying, I'm a socialist, I'm a capitalist, I'm a, it's like moving around deck chairs. These Scandinavians, even these socialist models, these things don't necessarily take into account that you have a finite planet. Most of these things, these kind of social systems, the workers owns the means of productions. That's great. But you can have a Scandinavian type society and still have your society implode due to some kind of global ecological collapse based on human behavior. I'm neither. I guess I'm more technocratic in this way. This kind of I lean more towards the Venus Project, if I'm being honest. And even with that, I have sketchiness about that one. The issue with the Venus Project to me is this thing of most of your labor can be done by robots, and the further and the more advanced your technology gets, the more likely that will be. Meaning, automation just goes on a particular path. Now, right now, that automation is just enhanced private ownership. But you will get to a point where more and more and more items are being automated. You get to 90-something% of the items in your society being automated or can't be automated. What does it mean for human beings when most of the labor is done by machines? And at that point, will people be able to live? You are at a point in your world, in your society, where you have the potential to meet all of the needs of the individuals on this planet. You have the technology to do it. The issue is one of choice. The issue is one of choice. Oftentimes, people want to persist the system the way it is because certain people are advantaged immensely in the way that the system is. That's the point. Now, in the Venus Project, I always ask this question of who's doing the labor that nobody wants to do, and how do you create incentives for people to do that particular labor? I understand you can create these ideas of, like in the same way people have military service. People would say, I'm going to fight for my country. That's great. What if patriotism becomes doing things within the country itself, not necessarily murdering people abroad? You're conditioning people, believe it or not, to go and fight in a war and to kill and to die for their particular country. Why are those people doing that? Why are they doing it? They're not really being paid to do it. I mean, the amount of money that you would pay somebody to risk their life is minor in comparison to the life that's being given or the life that they're taking. And yet those people go and they feel some kind of duty going to fight for their country. I'm saying human beings are malleable. They can be changed in all sorts of ways. My issue with the Venus Project is, how do you get to that particular society? And what is the chaos involved with trying to conform your society in that way? Not to mention, who does the shitty labor? Who cleans out the warp coils? Let's say it that way. Let's say you're on Star Trek. Who cleans on the warp coils? Yeah, I'm not either. I don't like this, this person being a specific thing. Now, look, I understand it from the standpoint of designation. Like, so Sanders would say he's like a Scandinavian type socialist that moves the ball further to the left. I'm okay with that. Nancy Pelosi screaming out she's a capitalist. I am not okay with that. I'm not okay with that at all. G. Gibson, resistance is not only futile, but it is essential. I doubt I'll go away swirly-eyed into the hive mind. No thanks. G. Gibson agreed. those people need to be nailed down big time. Meaning each of those people are elected, their record should be followed and tracked. There should be a database with each of the votes that each of those people get. And if those people vote for something that goes off the rails for what they said they were going to be in that office for, they should be alerted all the way out. I mean, honestly, man, there needs to be this kind of web all throughout the United States for lefties and independents who want to pay attention to politicians and what these guys do. Not this thing where they vote and nobody knows the votes that they take. It should be known. It should be well known. And it should be red flagged if they do something that goes off the rails. Honestly. In fact, our revolution do it. Our revolution is to say for each person who donates, for each person who's supporting us, we will keep a tally and we will send you something when these people go off the rails. It should be. Otherwise, how would you know? Otherwise, how would you know? I mean, you work 40, 50 hours a week and you're supposed to also pay attention to what these guys are doing in office. So come on. Tuesday's results are probably the worst thing that could happen for Democrats. Now they really think they don't have to change anything but be more anti-Trump. Yeah, that goes both ways, though. That's also for the rest of the country. I mean, if you believe that status quo is awesome, then Tuesday was awesome. And Tuesday was awesome. If you believe that something needs to change, then yes, Tuesday sucked. Tuesday sucked. Joan Levino, the Russian hysteria is working. I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think it's Russia. I think it's what they're doing at home. I think it's more the Obamacare stuff, and I think it's the tax cuts. Honestly, I don't think people care about this Russia stuff. I mean, they may care to the degree of, you know, well, God, they're occupying their time with this. I could be wrong. I haven't seen polling on the last polling I saw on the Russian thing. I think 50% of the people said the investigation was necessary. But you have a large section of the population who are like, this is a waste of time. This is a waste of time. I honestly think Trump going through that hassle of trying to rip away healthcare from people bit them in the ass a little bit more. I honestly do. The tax cut thing is also, I would imagine that's not necessarily the best thing. Jamal 2020 is fucking amazing. You want me in 2020. The body of ST... What? Bob Ramirez of the body. Oh, Star Trek, the original series, Return of the Archons. True worship right out. Thomas C., independent outsider. Excellent. Thanks. Media never put the vote into perspective. Most folks do not vote on off years. That is true, by the way. Most people don't vote on off years. Joan, I'm hysterical already. Independent outsider. Are we all Trekkies too? Yeah, we're all Trekkies. I talk about Star Trek a lot. Independent outsider. I swear I thought I saw numbers. Can't find it now, but they would not have been totals anyway, given I saw an election day before all the votes were counted. In a few days, Democrats will be crying again. SSS. Depends on what it's about. I mean, crying about what? What are they going to be crying about? Independent outsider. I'm from Winchester. I ignored my unsolicited overseas ballots for both primary and general. Will no longer vote Democrat anymore, or GOP for that matter. Good for you, BB Hammer. Good for you. Independent outsider. But is an off-presidential election year, so percentages will be low. That's true, which is why this was kind of amazing. Amazing may be too strong. But yeah, it's off-election year, so Democrats were terrified that they were going to get their ass handed to them. You must understand, low vote totals tend to go towards Republicans. Republicans tend to be more rabid in the way that they vote. So low election years, when you're trying to keep people away from the polls, the people who tend to vote are Republicans. It's the reason why Republicans do with this kind of voter suppression stuff. Their people usually gets to the poll in low voter turnouts. In this case, Democrats got their ass to the polls. They were motivated. This guy's going to eat our babies and our puppies. We got to get him out of office. In South Dakota's voters approved an anti-corruption law by referendum and the legislature repealed it. Crozet Islet. Yes. And like I said, the same thing in Maine. It wasn't anti-corruption. It was a... Oh, what was it called? Ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting would have made it easier for third parties to get involved in a voting process. Think of it as... usually... To some degree, they consider themselves penalized for voting for third parties. That big other the other, the ambiguous, the esoteric other that sits on your shoulder. I'd vote for a Green Party candidate if other people would vote for a Green Party candidate. That type of thing. Ranked choice voting tries to get rid of that process of the other. I will vote for whoever I want, and I will vote for a second choice, meaning if my first choice don't get it, my second choice gets pulled up in a total. I'm no longer penalized for the vote. But you must understand what this means. This also means that you have people who are more likely to vote for third-party candidates. I can vote for a Green Party candidate now, my choice. I'm not being penalized. It doesn't matter what the other votes for. In this case, now you have a situation where you may have a lot of others that didn't know they were others that are voting for the third-party candidate. They got rid of it, if I'm not mistaken. I gotta be honest, I didn't watch Holly's video. I think I saw the first part of it, but in the title she was talking about they got rid of it. And I did read the article on that. But yeah, the legislature essentially ignored the will of the public. It's fucking amazing. It's amazing. They should be punished for that, by the way. They should be punished for that. The public that passed that bill should find a way to punish them significantly. Each and every person that voted to take away that ranked choice voting needs to be taken out on a rail. You have dollars or pitchforks. Pick your pony. I refuse to vote Democrat anymore, nor do I trust or any group still associated with Democrats. Experienced voter suppressions last year. This year, I was sent 2 unsolicited overseas ballots without registration. Yeah, I know where you're coming from. X Factor 541. BB Hammer, you should probably vote for Bernie if he runs Democrat. I kind of agree with that. So people have been taking the piss out of me for supporting Sanders. Fair enough. Fair enough. I understand your ire. I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get this one. This is one of those things I get. Fair enough. I've always made the point that my morals are less spotless than Debbie's on this one. If I can move the ball forward, I want to move the ball forward. It just kind of depends on what I get out of the deal. I would vote Sanders again. I would vote Sanders again. I would have no issue voting for Sanders again. I would imagine that... How can I say this? So the first time Sanders ran, I think that there was this silent understanding that Hillary is going to win. That Sanders has no chance. I think this was the understanding. Now, if Sanders went into this, and mind you, all these things are perceptions. It's what is your perception of the world? And like anybody else, you focus and function based on your perception of the world. Your perception of the world can be wildly untrue. It can be wildly, completely untrue. You're in a corner dancing by yourself and you think you're the sexiest person on the planet and people are laughing at you. People are laughing at you. Are you the sexiest person on the planet? In your mind, yes. In their minds, no. Does it make it untrue that they're laughing at you? No, it doesn't make it untrue because they're laughing at you. But you only have human conception to go with. So you're probably thinking it's not necessarily true. Sanders, running in that campaign, probably full well thought that he had no chance. He thought, I'm just going to push the conversation to the left. And somewhere along the way, oh my God, I'm catching on fire. What do you do in that situation? Like, I know people would say, well, Sanders should have ran that campaign as if he was going to win. He should have went out for blood starting on day one. Fair enough. Fair enough. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. Alan Grayson is a former progressive Florida U.S. representative. Alan Grayson is an animal. Alan Grayson is an animal. Alan Grayson got on the floor of the House and said that the Republicans' goal for health care is for people to die. They were like, what? How dare you, sir? How dare you say that we want people to die? And Alan Grayson wasn't wrong. Like, if you're saying that you're okay with all of these people dying each year because they don't have access to health care, then Alan Grayson is right. Your plan for health care is for people to die. You had control of the apparatus. You didn't do anything about it. You didn't care to do anything about it. You care about tax cuts and wars. Fair enough. Alan Grayson was wrong. I like Alan Grayson. I like Alan Grayson. Jay Scott, my point was someone said Trump would definitely win in 2020, and that is absurd. Fuck no, I don't believe that at all. Yeah, I don't believe that at all. The day that Trump won the election, and a few days after, particularly when Trump started governing, I thought to myself, okay, there is a chance that Trump would own that office. For the first month, I thought, no, not for the first month, maybe for the first week, there's a chance that Trump would get in this office and he would own that office. Maybe there's a chance that he would abide by the things that he was saying on the campaign trail. Maybe. The $10 minimum wage, the healthcare, that everybody having big, beautiful healthcare. Maybe. And then he started putting people in office. And when you start choosing your cabinet, the people you choose are your policies. Meaning people are policy. So if you're putting in Betsy DeVos, that gives you a certain idea on what Betsy DeVos is going to do and what Trump has in mind. When you put in Munich, or whatever his name is, that gives you a certain idea of what Trump wants to take place in that particular position. Trump was putting people in positions that were antagonistic towards the organizations that he was putting those people in. So he would put somebody who was antagonistic towards the EPA in to head the EPA. It was very clear at that point his intentions. He wasn't going to rule the office at all. He was going to be a fucking train wreck. And that's essentially what's taking place. This bumbling idiot that ran a campaign that was purely bumbling got into office and did the exact same thing. There is no way. I would be blown away if Trump wins in 2020. And whoever runs against him in 2020 and loses, oh man, that would be immensely embarrassing. And don't get me, Trump had a chance. He did have a chance. Trump could have gotten that office and said, I'm going to keep my campaign promise and I'm going to push to have health care for everybody. He could have said that. Not that the Republicans would have gave it to him, but he would have ran against the Republican Party. And he would have looked fucking amazing doing it, because he would have shown up the Democrats, he was showing up the Republicans, even though he had no intention of passing it because he knew the Republican Party wouldn't have passed it. That's what I would have did. That's what I would have did. Now, you can say that's Machiavellian, you can say that's me playing politics, but that is exactly what I would have did. I said I wanted health care for each and every person, and I'm Donald Trump. I'm not beholden to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I am fundamentally independent, and you are going to get the big, beautiful health care. At the very least, I'm going to do my best to get you that big, beautiful health care for each and every person. There was no loss in doing that. Zero. Not that it would have happened, just the fact that he would have ran on it. There's a difference in those things. He needs to take a lesson from Democrats. Democrats say all sorts of shit that they never intend on doing or even trying to do. No intention. Democrats say all sorts of stuff. They pretend as if they're FDR-ish. Donald Trump could have did the exact same thing. He wasn't beholden to the party. In that sense, they hated his guts. He failed in this way. He didn't understand the politics of it. I understand he's beholden to the Republican Party in this way just because he's running as a Republican. But they hate his guts. And he could have ran against the fact that they hated his guts. I don't know what's taking place in 2018, 2019, but we'll see. There would have to be a massive sea change for Donald Trump to pull this off in 2020. So, BB Hammer, Trump will win again in 2020. The Dems are doomed next year, and in 2020 they've learned nothing. BB Hammer, I agree with you that they've learned nothing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't win. I don't think you understand what the American public is like. I don't think you get it. You're paying attention to the minutia that takes place in the news. They aren't. They aren't. They see, they get a flavor of it, if that makes sense. They don't get the news. They get sound bites. They get little stuff, little tidbits of information that inform their view of things. They don't necessarily get the whole story. They don't get the context. They see flavors. There's a difference in those things. So, Trump, his tone is just so over the top and gross. It's hard to make that out. Like, it's not that he's doing anything all that different than Mike Pence would do. That's the amazing point, by the way. I've heard people say they need to impeach Trump and put Mike Pence in that office. Trump is not necessarily doing anything Mike Pence would do. This is an issue of tone. This is an issue of his persona, how he acts, how he behaves. It's the difference in those things. I thought he would be more ghastly. I wanted him to be more ghastly. I wanted him to be a fucking monster. I wanted him to be the person that Hillary Clinton made him out to be. I wanted him to be goddamn Godzilla, ripping the top off of buildings. I wanted him to land in some state and kick somebody's puppy and eat somebody's dog. I wanted Donald Trump to be the monster that Hillary Clinton said he was going to be. That's what I wanted. It's not that I loved it. It's not that I would have thought it would have been awesome for each and every person. It's just that chaos is awesome for change. And if there's a little bit of chaos, it would have woke people out of their complacency. It's not enough chaos. Somebody's going to play the sound back later and they're going to be like, he was asking for chaos. Chaos for a reason. Jan's mansled. Attorney Bob Frikakis sued for the exit poll results, which remain locked up at some university per judge. Yeah. My fear is that Trump is so weak and divisive that Democrats will get to hand pick a crook. The primaries will be important. Agreed. I can't say that hard enough. I keep saying that. And I don't mean to repeat myself on this. I have a video going back like months ago where I kind of made this point, like, depending on how bad Donald Trump is, you may get status quo depending on the war that takes place in 2020. If you get a situation where you get a progressive or lefty that exceeds the primaries in 2020, you're going to have a lefty president. And you're going to get the opportunity to actually change. Or at the very least, reorganize the party itself, providing you hold that person accountable. Yeah, we'll see. That's a 2020 thing. That's 3 years off. If Kamala Harris is forced upon us like Hillary, Bernie has no choice but to run as an independent. Does Bernie have it in him to run as an independent? That's the question. That's the question. And would he run as an independent? That's the question. And then you even have this other question of, will the American public vote for Sanders if he ran as an independent? It would, put it this way, it would destroy. Kamala Harris will lose that race, by the way. Not necessarily that Sanders will win it, but Kamala Harris will lose that race. Progressives wouldn't vote for her. They would vote for Sanders. Hillbots will probably vote for Kamala Harris because they're just voting out of this kind of cultural democratic thing. Whoever the Republican is at that point, if that's Donald Trump, he would walk into the White House again. So that's my prediction. That's what I think would happen. Trudy, impeach Trump for using the office for profit. Yeah, we'll see. I think you have a hard time doing that, but we'll see. Corzette, hence why they just purged all the Bernie supporters from the DNC. Adam Sinclair, because they don't want you inside of the DNC. They don't want you there. You understand the Democratic Socialist that was running within the Democratic Party, they didn't give the guy any support. That guy went on his own devices. They didn't want him in that party. Superdelegates, they cancel out our votes. Jane Mansled, then you shouldn't vote for him. Like, what I mean by that is, the superdelegates is a big fucking deal. I mean, those superdelegates are literally there in order to prevent grassroots candidates from getting into the party. They're subverting the will of the American public. Now, you can say whatever you want about the Republican Party. Ultimately, the Democratic Party is one of the most undemocratic parties in this country. I would say the most undemocratic because there are only two major parties. It just feels like, why vote for something that's that undemocratic? If it's that rigged against you, just based in the rules itself, not even them gaming the system, but the rules itself is that rigged against you, why vote for a candidate in that process? Yeah, I agree. Oh my God, Pence is equal to Koch brothers, the Freedom Caucus. Trump is actually far better. I agree. Jan, I agree. Pence is worse. My fear, therefore I support Trump. Merlin, I don't support Trump, but I do believe Pence is worse. X Factor 541. Superdelegates will vote Kamala Harris. What I fear, superdelegates will vote for Kamala Harris. Yes, I agree. Matt West. Would the corporate media try to force Sanders out of the narrative if he formed a People's Party? It would be pretty difficult, I think. His popularity is so ingrained in the electorate. So yes and no. So a lot of people have been taking issue with Sanders on this. Sanders became the Democratic Outreach Coordinator. Now, I've defended this to some degree. Have I defended that? Yeah. I've made an argument for it, I think. Yeah, I made an argument for it. Because my thought was, If Sanders wanted to stay in the limelight, like if you were in a situation where you wanted to keep yourself in the public spotlight, being the Democratic outreach coordinator, being the outreach coordinator for a major party is a way to do it. It is definitely a way to do it. You're hopping from point A to point B representing the Democratic Party, and from what everybody sees, you're the face. You have the highest popularity throughout the nation. So if you're trying to stay relevant for the next 4 years, would that be the way to do it? That is a way. That is a way. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that he should have ran as an independent. I don't know if he would have gotten the bang for his buck, looking back in hindsight, running as an independent as opposed to now. Hillary Clinton would have lost, so fair enough. But they would have blamed him like nobody's business. And regardless of the fight of blame, for instance, I would far rather be on the side of the argument saying you cheated as opposed to it wasn't his fault. Those are two very different arguments. I can be, filled with a certain level of vindictiveness and anger, a righteous indignation about the whole you cheated thing, as opposed to just being annoyed at the it wasn't his fault argument. I would rather be on the other side of the argument. So it's not necessarily that it was the best thing in the world. Yes, it was painful to watch, but is it a better outcome? Yes, I believe so. Joan Levino, they say he wasn't even a Democrat. I was a Democrat all my life, and the party stuck a knife in my back by a sinking Bernie. You know what? I want to show this because I think this tells it all. They may take what took place in this election and believe that they may take what took place and believe that this is great, we don't have to change anything, the world is awesome, and all this other stuff. Every so often, I would see a comment that somebody would make, and I would be like, oh my God, that is a fucking awesome comment, and that sums up. And oh, here we are. I hope she's okay with me using this. I saw this and I thought to myself, this woman is a goddamn lion. I think the picture is awesome. It's this looking into the camera, holding up a sign, and then writing the comment, and the comment matches perfectly with the gravity of the presence of this all. To Hillary Clinton from America's woke voting public. By itself. From America's woke voting public. There's a gravity to that. I am taking on, I'm taking this on as almost like a collection lawsuit. I'm taking on the perspective of the America's woke voting publics. I don't know, I just think that's separate. Being better than Donald Trump is hardly a compliment. We would prefer anyone or thing over him. You are on notice, and we are watching your every move you make until election day and beyond. You want a rigged election, and we all know it. Don't let this win go to your expertly styled head. It's not hard to win when you cheat. It's not hard to win when you run against Donald. What's hard is what we did for Senator Sanders' campaign and what we would continue. No one of us is going anywhere. We're still here, and we'll begrudgingly vote for you. In fear or not, we are awake. And hashtag still Sanders. Always. And if we begrudgingly vote for you, in fear or not, we're awake. It's still Sanders. I love that post. I love that post. That post thrills me to no end. I love starting off from America's woke voting public. I love that. I love that. That thrilled me to my heart. Like, it's, and mind you, that was before the election. And that's this defiant, we know you cheated. You won a rigged election. Good job. You won a rigged election. And you're running against the weakest candidate in the history of candidates. Now, what she didn't know at the time was Hillary Clinton was going to lose to the weakest of candidates. She didn't know that. She didn't know that. Fair enough. But it doesn't necessarily mean what she said isn't still valid, particularly with everything that took place with Tom Perez, with sticking a shiv in Ellison, with purging members from the DNC that supported Ellison or Sanders. None of the stuff at the time, you know, for the most part, that hadn't happened yet. I love it. I love it. Jared Beck told HA correctly that no progressive has a chance in the Democratic Party. Yeah, there's no way for him to know that. Don't get me wrong, I like Jared Beck, but there is no way for him to know that. Look, I don't know the chances of somebody changing the Democratic Party. I don't think anybody can tell you that. I don't think anybody can honestly say that it is impossible to reform it that way. I mean, after all, the Democratic Party used to be one thing and it turned into something else. And is it possible that the party can change into something else? Past history says yes. I understand people with any particular context often think that those things are fixed and unchangeable, but that's not necessarily true. That being said, should you just be trusting of the people who you put in office? Hell no. Hell no. Absolutely not. I am immensely skeptical of what takes place in that party, and I'm immensely skeptical of people who are winning in that party. I kind of agree with Debbie on this to some degree. What are those people going to become when they get folded into the machine? And are those people going to be able to hold their shape once they're in office? That is the fundamental question. You will find that out within the coming weeks and months. But as a flat fact, I don't think you can say it as an absolute. That's all I mean. Jan Manslet, Michael McFadden, who? Merlin. Hillary won't run again. That would be insane. But money, Democrats have no money. She owns them. Yeah, I don't think she'd run it again. Not after this. I don't think she'd run it again. That would be, yeah, that would be maddening. That would be absolutely maddening. D. Martin, Bernie's tepid objections are what's disturbing. Tepid objections to what? I need to know what the tepid objections to, Martin. Bob Ramirez, we saw Sanders turn his back and get down on bended knee to Hillary. How dumb can people be? Oh, he's saying he bent the knee. Bend the knee. Ugh. Fair enough. They broke him. That's fine. They broke him in the short term. Fair enough. But come on, Bob. Come on, Bob. Be fair. Oh, okay. Dax Jacobson. He answered that for him. Bob Ramirez, Bernie is a real person, not a fictional character in a movie. That's how real people do things. Millions at work every day who don't kill their lame ass bosses. Yeah, agreed. People act as if they would do something different in the exact same situation. That's the part that always gets me. It's not. I hate it. This idea of Sanders turning around supporting Hillary Clinton, and I was one of those people booing Sanders when he said you should support Hillary Clinton, and I turned around and voted for Jill Stein. So, agreed on that point. But he's a real person. Meaning, he's under pressure in the same way that other people are under pressure when they're in certain situations. He's running in the Democratic Party. He has what he considers to be a clear and present danger in the form of Donald Trump. And he decided to work with the devil he knew to attack the devil that he didn't. In that case, I would say after the election, the one thing that we do know, Bernie Sanders understood he was cheated. Bernie Sanders understood the contest was rigged. He understood that the contest wasn't fair. And immediately after the election, the first thing that he did was get back to work attacking Donald Trump. I understand people having some issues with him. But between the two, Hillary Clinton took her ass home and wrote a book talking about why she failed to reality shows. Bernie Sanders was out there attacking Donald Trump and trying to hold him accountable to everything that he said on the campaign trail, one lie after the next. Now, take issue with him all you want, fair enough. But come on. Come on. Be fair. Be fair. BB Hammer, I would never support Bernie again. He gave his donations to Hillary Clinton. Fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. He didn't give his donations to Hillary Clinton. I don't know where that's coming from. I honestly don't know where that's coming from. Why do you think Bernie Sanders gave his donations to Clinton? I've heard that before. I just don't understand where you guys are getting that from. X Factor 541. What was Bernie Sanders supposed to do? You tell me. Agreed. J. Scott. Bob, what's your solution? Agreed. I want to know that too. Bob Romero says Sanders could have kept his promise to take the campaign to the convention. He took the campaign to the convention. He did. Bernie Sanders went through the entire campaign all the way to the convention. At the convention, yes. He bent the knee. Yes. They raised his broken body up. Yes. They had him in a cage and they paraded him about for progressives and he threw oranges and apples at him. Yes, that's true. That's true. That is absolutely true. They broke him at the convention. They made him look bad at the convention. Fair enough. But he did take it to the convention. You wanted him to do something that I don't know anybody would have done. That's all. You wanted him to be this superhuman person. He's just a person. He's just a guy. He gets out of bed in the morning like everybody else. James Mansley, Michelle McFadden, DeNiccolo, Highland Park, New Jersey. Recent donations GoFundMe for the DNC convention. Yeah, poor Bernie forced to say Hillary will make a great president. D. Martin. Oh, you bastard. J. Scott, if I hear Hillary is crooked and Bernie sucks, blah, 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 what are you going to do? Mobilize? Show me your plan. BB Martin, X Factor, start a real political revolution and run for president on the green ticket. Stein's made that off-term. Bernie had a coalition of the left and right. I knew the GOP voters who voted for Stein. I'm sorry, man. I from an emotional standpoint, I get it. That is a visceral, oh yes, we're not going to take this shit anymore. Yes, I agree. Bernie Sanders didn't want to become Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader didn't lose that election for Al Gore. Fair enough. But you understand, there's a difference. And you having an argument about, I did not lose this election for so-and-so versus you failed miserably and I would have won. Those are two very different arguments. That's all I'm saying. Jill Stein and Sanders would not have won that race. He would have split the vote. And in splitting the vote, they would have blamed Sanders for losing the election for Hillary Clinton. I want Hillary Clinton to lose on her own devices, which is what she did. Now you have this conversation that's taking place in the party of she failed miserably across the United States. She got the stuffing beat out of her in one state after the next. She won on the wings and she got more votes, so they keep saying, oh, well, she had 2, 3 more, maybe more votes. It's California. It's California. It's the most populous state. When you look at the election states, she got pummeled. She got pummeled. She couldn't even win states that were clearly in Democratic hands under normal circumstances. She got pummeled. They keep using this 3 million stuff. We don't choose our presidents by the popular vote. And if you wanted us to choose elections by the popular vote, when you had absolute control over the political apparatus, you should have done something about it. You didn't. You didn't. Yeah. She got pummeled. I understand the idea of wanting Sanders to run a third party. I just don't think it would have worked. That's all. That's all. Bob Romero says a smart guy, but he has turned cynicism into an art form. Fair enough. Lord's one. They didn't break him. He's standing against a monster. He said there were problems. He said there was corruption. There was no groundswell amongst the masses, so he keeps going. Lawrence, what I mean by broken, I don't mean as this kind of I'll give you an example. Yes, it's a chess reference. I pushed my rating up to 2030. And in tournaments, it's like you're in a different room and everything else. It's there's a certain elitism about it. Where, no, it's not a 2200. It's not master level. But oftentimes you're in different tournament halls and everything else. And so it's not the easiest thing to do to push your rating to that level. So I feel a particular way about myself with that particular rating. Not having played in a while, and you're playing people clearly inferior to your, to your typical playing level, and you're getting beat and your ass handed to you. And in that moment, you feel like a broken man, because in that moment you were a broken man. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're in that way in perpetuity. It doesn't necessarily mean you're that way forever. But come on. Sanders called this woman corrupt for months. called her corrupt for months, said she was bribed, all that stuff, said they were cheating. And then in the Democratic convention, with tears in his eyes, vote Clinton. All of the other people out there, all the other Democrats, all the other, the Democratic functionaries and all these other people raised Sanders up and says, he said vote for Hillary Clinton, so bow your goddamn heads. And this was the argument they used. Hey, Bernie Sanders said you should vote for Hillary Clinton, so shouldn't you vote for Hillary Clinton? Yeah, I stand by it. They broke him. They broke him. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that Sanders on day 2 didn't necessarily get up and go work his ass off again. He did. He did. And you can make an argument that the organization needs to start our revolution. Whatever you want to think of our revolution, whether you think it's AstroTurf or whatever, they did damn good last night. So whatever he himself wants to accomplish, whatever he himself considers this quote-unquote political revolution, I would argue that he started the organization, our revolution, and our revolution are putting people in office. I don't mean they broke him in perpetuity. I just mean in that particular situation, he lost. You heard me say before, just because somebody loses doesn't necessarily mean it's a loss. And just because somebody wins doesn't mean it's a win. This is one of those cases. J. Scott, being anti-Hillary and anti-Bernie is not a political party or an ideology. Yeah, it's just saying neither. And sheep will run ahead of a sheepdog. Bob Ramirez, BB Hammer, James. All right, fair enough, fair enough. Yes, Bob is taking cynicism to an art form. Fair enough. All right, Bob, I feel you. I feel you. Fair enough. And sheep will run ahead of a sheepdog. That's funny. I like it. BB Hammer, James Mansley, redirected is the same thing as giving it to Hillary Clinton. Nice hair splitting. They didn't. I need to look that up. I need to look that up. If I'm being fair, I need to look that up. I don't think that happened, but I need to look that up. Matt West, Bernie had to do it. If he didn't, they would crucify him, and his platform that he uses now to inform the public would have been destroyed. Think of CNN debates. Matt West, agreed. Which is kind of my point. These sleeves are killing me. Yeah, that's kind of my point. You've ended up in a different position than you would have ended up if Sanders would have ran as a third party. I just don't think it would have worked. Hillary, I just don't think it would have worked. I think you would have ended up in a worse spot. Do you believe that they would have allowed Sanders to have this much of a platform if Sanders had ran as a third party and tanked Hillary Clinton? I don't think so. At the very least, right now, at this moment, the way it looks, the political wisdom that's out, the chum that's in the water, the main political thought is Hillary Clinton failed miserably to Donald Trump. In addition to Hillary Clinton failing miserably to Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton wrote a book coming out trying to explain why she failed miserably to Donald Trump. In Hillary Clinton coming out and saying why she failed miserably to Donald Trump, the issue of the stuff came out about the dossier. The stuff came out about the uranium one deal. The stuff came out about the DNC being under full control of Hillary Clinton, as if she was Thanos with the glove, having absolute control over space, matter, and time in a political context. That is not positive news at all. And I have to have this feeling that if Sanders had ran as a third party against her, the news would have been Sanders lost the race for Hillary Clinton, not Hillary Clinton lost on her own devices. Even if it wasn't true, that would have been the narrative that would have went up. I think it's a big difference in those things. I like being able to be on my platform and with a certain amount of righteous indignation scream into the mic that you failed miserably to reality shows. I like doing that. I don't want to get on my platform and make this argument on why Bernie Sanders didn't lose it for Hillary Clinton. Those are very different arguments and very different conversations. I don't want to have the latter. I don't want to have the latter. That's the Ralph Nader argument. I don't want to have the Ralph Nader argument. Ralph Nader didn't lose the election for Gore, but ensconced in everybody's mind is Ralph Nader. That's amazing, but it's true. It's true. Gore couldn't even win his own goddamn state. Bernie was afraid of getting the Ralph Nader treatment or myth right, marginalized out of political conversation. Yes, Crozet Owls. Yes, yes. Why are you so worried about being fooled by Bernie Sanders? This is the hill you want to die on. Dax Jacobson. Yeah, nobody wants to be taken advantage of. Merlin, where you go? Okay, Merlin, I don't see what yours is. I'm sorry. Bob Romero said, people are mainstream media, TYT believers or something, chanting slogans they've been programmed with. Yeah, that's true. I always think it's ridiculous to be out there chanting slogans. Oh, wait a minute. Have I chanted slogans? No, I don't think I've chanted slogans. Yeah, I don't think I've chanted slogans. At least not for a party. BB Hammer, the fact remains that Bernie has lost most of his support from last year. I don't think that's true. How are you going to... Come on, man. Come on, dog. Come on. Again, most people aren't into politics in a way that you and I and the people here are into politics. Meaning, the conversations and the arguments that you're hearing from other leftist progressives are not necessarily what's filtered out into the rest of the public. There's no way that you can say that Bernie Sanders lost most of his support and he is by far the most popular senator, most popular politician in this country. In spades. In spades. I don't know where you're getting that from. I don't know where you're getting that one from. I would never vote for a corporate Democrat again. I haven't since Obama in 2008. Never again. Luca Clemente agreed. Agreed. In fact, there's a headwind just to vote for any Democrat, even if it's somebody I like. Jan's mail for BB Hammer. Tom Perez just fired the progressives who would vote out the superdelegates. Jan's Mainslet. Yes. Well, Luca Clemente, that's 2 of us. Yep, that's 3 of us. X Factor 541. Laughing my ass off. You think because you're subscribed to some progressive YouTube channels, you're not in the echo chamber? I'm subscribed to all those people you named. You know nothing about me. Yeah, these things are still echo chambers. All of these things are echo chambers. I always wonder if it's because everybody is listening to everyone else, or if it's those people just have similar bearings. So when the news come out, those people feel similar ways towards the news. I can never tell which. Once I started my channel, I didn't have time to do anything else, if that makes sense. So beforehand, I used to watch a lot of YouTube, and I ended up, I still do to some degree. Yeah, I still do to some degree. But it's funny, I get sick of political stuff now that I do a political show, if that makes sense. I find myself, most of my free time, reading articles and magazines and lectures and stuff like that. And so it's like I don't necessarily have the leisure time that I used to have in order to look at channels. I often wonder, I do like Jimmy Dore. Love Jimmy Dore. I often wonder if, yeah, I often wonder if it's, I often wonder where the echo starts. What's the first sound? What's the original sound? Is there original sound? Is it like someone hears something and repeats it and repeats it and repeats it and repeats it? And mind you, this is for MSNBC, who essentially have the same thing going on all day. Fox News, again, having the same thing all day, repeating the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know. Who knows? Bernie being on CNN so often will help in the long game. Climate change will kill most of us in the long run, so we're probably fucked anyway, so relax. I love that. The courage of hopelessness. That's one of those Slajov can't get it up. Slajov Zizek. The courage of hopelessness. You're doing things not because you think you're going to succeed, but because there's no choice but to do it anyway. Yeah, you have nothing to lose. Have at it. It's like, calm down, you're fucked anyway. I love that. That's funny, actually. It's like, relax, relax, relax. You're dead anyway. It doesn't matter. Russia, 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 Russia. That's James Manslet. We like an echo chamber. Our friends are all kinds of the same mindset. I have one Trump supporting friend to keep an eye on them. I can't stand to talk to others with that view. I don't have any Trump supporters per se. I have friends who are right wingers, but they're more so in the libertarian camp. Yeah, I have someone more in the libertarian camp. the I have mine, fuck everybody else can't. BB Hammer, I'm not a progressive anymore or any labels. It's dehumanizing people who think differently. I don't know if it's dehumanizing other people who think differently. It doesn't pigeonhole you though. I use progressive only from the standpoint of allowing people to have some context to which to pin me, if that makes sense. It's like, here's a person, okay, this person is saying stuff, okay, what is this person saying? Now, calling yourself the progressive whatever can have this kind of headwind, because they're like, well, I'm a whatever, meaning they have their own context of who they are, in which case they want to rebuff anything else that doesn't necessarily fit into their cultural reality box. Fair enough. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fair enough. But come on, just because you don't name yourself something, certainly you have certain qualities that are associated with it that are more like other qualities. That's all. Bernie has pissed off people with his Russia warmongering, so disgusted with his photo op jihadist white helmets. Bernie's support is growing. Me too, I agree. I think his support is growing too. Yeah, I think his support is growing too. I thank Bernie for waking me up, but I'm done with him. I've transcended and move on. I have transcended. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. I have transcended. I love it. Classroom cooperative. Stay snuggly, comrade. Fair enough. I will. Sanders doesn't have a brilliant foreign policy. Have you heard Sanders' foreign policy speech? He gave a major foreign policy speech. I think it was a month ago. It is a change. He gave another one recently. I don't know, put it this way. I don't know why he would be giving a foreign policy speech if he wasn't planning on running in 2020. Otherwise, why bother? Why bother? He's even out there bashing this idea of, global oligarchy. It's like, wow. It's like, all right, bring it on. Bring it on. Let your full socialists out. Me too. There's been a tidal wave of people inspired by Sanders to run on all levels for public office. Agreed. I think that's what Bob Ramirez is missing. I understand Bob's cynicism. To some degree, I even share it. I think initially I did. As time went on, I started thinking from the perspective of there is a lot of people who've been activated by Sanders. And there's a wave coming. And you can see part of that wave in this off-election year with all of these Democrats. Look, it's not that I think all these Democrats are fucking awesome that got elected. That's not what it is. It's not that I even have all that faith in our revolution. That's not even what it is. It's more so that these people have ran before were it not for Sanders? That is the operative question. And I suspect that answer for a lot of these people is no. I suspect the answer is no. With that socialist that ran in Virginia, would he have ran? Probably not. I think Sanders woke a lot of people up. Give him the credit he deserved. This is less of a win for Democrats, more of a win for Sanders. Probably a Justice Democrat plan. He's not a Justice Democrat. That's what I said. He's not a Justice Democrat. When Sanders runs against Trump in 2020, Sanders will have a land. Yeah, Sanders will beat the shit out of Trump. I know Trump. Look, I know Donald Trump likes to think that. I hope Trump doesn't really believe that he was going to beat Sanders. All the polls, like, Trump wasn't even close. Like, every poll that was taken with this idea of Trump and Sanders, or Trump or Sanders and Cruz, or Sanders and Case, all these guys, Sanders landslided them. He landslided them. All those people who were voting for Donald Trump out of these kind of these things because they felt alienated with Democrats, they didn't have that issue with Sanders. So Sanders' message was economic. It spread across the demographic spectrum. Hillary Clinton's message was, empty rhetoric talking about how horrible Donald Trump is. There's a difference in those things. Oh my God, right-wing Jewish commentator Ben Shapiro is terrified of Sanders. He should be terrified of Sanders. He should be. He absolutely should be. Bernie's out retweets and favorites the president on a daily basis. Oh, right. Out retweets and favorites the president on a daily basis. Oh, he's more of a tweeter. Fair enough. That's funny. Bernie was a lost opportunity last year. He can win against Trump. Yeah, he can. I actually have voted for only one corporate Democrat since the Caucus in 1988, Perot in 1992, Nader in 96. I voted for Nader too in 2000. I voted for Nader in 2000. Obama tricked me in 2008. Obama tricked a lot of people in 2008. You weren't alone. He tricked a lot of people in 2008. He really did. If I wasn't so terrified of Romney, I would have voted for Romney. Well, not Romney, but I would have voted for the Jill Stein in that election. Yeah. In fact, I voted. It's funny. My vote for Obama in 2012 had less to do with Obama and more to do with legacy, if that makes sense. And I know this sounds extraordinarily weird. I didn't like the way Republicans were running against them. I hated the way they were running against them. I didn't like this idea that I felt they were trying to denigrate the legacy of the first black president. That bugged the shit out of me. And I felt like I don't necessarily want... I don't want that. I don't want I didn't want that. Even if he didn't necessarily do anything major and fantastic in that office, the last thing I wanted them to get a win after the way that they behaved when he took office. So they were way beyond the pale in the way they behaved. After Sanders wins, he could proceed with dampening down expectations of fostering incrementalism. Whoopee. Cynical bastard. Cynical bastard. Oh, D. Martin. James Manslet. I hope so. I would hope that Senator Elizabeth Warren would decide whose side she's on this time for real. Elizabeth Warren is going to do what Elizabeth Warren always does. I go this way. I go this way. That's what Elizabeth Warren would do. That's exactly what Elizabeth Warren would do. Which way is the wind blowing? Now, unless you're talking about a banker. Oh, she hates bankers. She will punch a banker in the eye on any day of the week and twice on Sundays. But any other political situation. Yeah, that's Warren's political policy. I would have voted for Perot, but he kept changing his mind about running. Glad I didn't in hindsight, knowing what I know now about him. Then he was a Pied Piper like Trump. Yeah. BB Hammer Bernie has no chance of winning in 2020. They won't let him get the Democratic nomination. He cannot win against Trump. He doesn't have the support anymore. I don't know where you're getting that from. Like, I honestly don't know where you're getting that from. Your perspective of support is from a very specific context. And you're not swimming out of your sandbox to see the other context, to see how other people see him. This is not about you, dude. Like, this is not about the far left. I've heard somebody describe me as far left. I always think that's fucking amazing. And it's true. It's true. I consider myself further to the left than most. This is our sandbox. This is not the wider world. Meaning, even if the wider world could be brought to your particular opinion, the wider world does not currently share your particular opinion of things. It doesn't even know your opinion of things. Your wider world doesn't even have the context of the far left. Doesn't even know what it is. Doesn't even have an idea of what that looks like. They're still in this programming that the best that they have is Democrat and Republican. And you have somebody who's somewhat out of character with both of those things, meaning Bernie Sanders. And those people are like, holy shit, that's something new. You may have lost favor, but that is not indicative of the whole. You don't have a situation where the majority of people in the country, where the overwhelming majority of people, this kind of the most favorite politician in this country right now. If what you were saying was true, and Sanders lost this massive amount of support, that wouldn't be true. That wouldn't be true. $54 billion would have paid for Sanders' college plan. Yep. They gave more than that to the military, even though the military's budget was like $1 billion. BB Hammer, I talked to real people on both the left and the right. Bernie isn't far left or left at all, really. He is to the left. He's not far left. Jamal is getting a lot of hardcore burnouts now who can't give up their fantasy. Bob Ramirez. Jamal is getting a lot of hardcore burnouts now who can give up. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair criticism. Matt West. What? BB? Look at the Gallup polls. He blows everyone else out the water because people know he's real, if nothing else. You understand, there are people who completely disagree with everything Sanders says, but at the very least believe that Sanders believes it. And that's a hell of a lot more than any other politician they've ever come across in their lifetime. The guy believes what he's saying. He's telling the truth. I'll go with the guy who's telling me the truth. It's a big deal, man. It's a big deal. BB Hammer Jamal, you should watch HA. He has views on the left and right. He knows that Trump will win again in 2020. HA called the 2016 election in 2015. I have to take AJ in doses. I have to take AJ in doses, if I'm being honest. There are certain stories that I watch for HA. There's certain stories that I watch for HA. It's just that everything always comes back around to Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter what it is. You can be talking about, I found a hammer on the side of the street and Hillary Clinton was driving the car that dropped it. Everything boils down to Hillary Clinton. I watched HA. There was a video that I was watching and it had nothing to do with Hillary Clinton. And HA made it about Hillary Clinton. And I was laughing. My wife was like, what did you think that video was going to end up being? She was like, you thought it was going to be something else? So yeah, I have to take HA in doses. HA is wrong about Trump winning in 2020. I'm sorry, he is. I understand his perspective. HA is not... Alright, my wife hates it when I give psychological evaluations. But I'm going to give a psychological evaluation. And it's not a psychological evaluation. It's a strategy evaluation based on the psychology of the person. On what they've been doing, let me put it that way. This is only it's contextual, so it's not an absolute. I don't know HA in this way. I think HA believes that the Democratic Party is the problem. And in that, HA is absolutely right. HA is completely, factually right. Anything that you want to take place in this country is going to take place on the left. And I think what HA realized was Sanders was running. Sanders was cheated. And the Democratic Party is supposed to be that vehicle of change in this country. They're supposed to be the release valve of capitalism. You have a burning ship. They're supposed to be moving around deck chairs. They're not even doing that. So when HA looks at this and says, wait a minute, these guys are supposed to represent X, and they're not representing X. And the guy who comes up, who is representing X, they cheat. Nothing gets done in this country without dealing with them first. So it seems like he's taking it on himself in the show to directly take aim at that particular thing. And in that situation, from a larger context, he's right. He's right. Like from an overall view, HA is absolutely right. He's perfectly right. Does that mean that I necessarily want to see every show about Hillary Clinton? No, it does not. But I understand what he's going at. And I don't necessarily think he's wrong in what he's doing. So, I mean, people joke him for the Hillary Clinton thing. But what he's getting at, what he's getting at is right. What he's getting at is right. Tulsi, I like Tulsi too, Jan. I don't agree with HA about everything. He was hardcore for Bernie, Nina, and Tulsi until Jerry Beck told him they had no chance in the party. How would Jerry Beck know that? I mean, Jerry Beck is not the word of God. It's not like Jerry Beck is the word of God. All these people are making these proclamations as if they have this oracle of knowledge. I've looked into those balls and I know these things. Yeah, I don't know where they're getting that from. Yes, the DNC is corrupt. Yes, the DNC cheated Sanders. Doesn't mean that the DNC can repeat the same process over and over again after cheating last year. Maybe. Maybe. But man, that would be a fuckfest. That being said, man, my rule on this hasn't really changed. Don't support my interests, you don't get my vote. I don't care your label, I don't care your party. That seems to be the simplest path. Entire oligarchy indicted, imminent. Yeah, that is HA. That is HA. HA is saying that Trump will win because the Democrats are hopelessly stuck on being anti-Trump instead of running for something. That is true with a caveat. With a massive caveat. When Trump was running against Hillary Clinton, that run was purely conceptual. Like, the idea of what Trump was going to do in that office was purely conceptual. Trump can make this case. That I'm a business guy, I'm going to get in there, I'm going to work some deals, I'm going to be moving and shaking, and I'm going to be my own man, etc., etc., etc. He can do that. He can make that case. Nobody knows anything about him. Everybody just figure he's a buffoon. And ultimately, he'll be something different. They wanted something different. Well, they got there something different. Now they have something to compare him to. So now they can see what he's doing in that office. They can see his actions. Now, unless Trump changes things, going 2018 to 2020, Trump is going to lose that election. And I say that, like I said, the people in Virginia is a purple state. It's a bellwether state. That state flips back and forth. Trump nearly won Virginia. You understand that. And the reason, I need to nail this down. I understand where HA is coming from. HA is blinded by this idea of Democrats. I'm sorry, he is. I agree with him. They're fucking horrible. They're immensely corrupt. He's right. 100% correct. Does that mean that the public understands that those guys are corrupt? No, it does not. Does it also mean that Trump is a shoo-in because they're corrupt? No, it does not. Like I said, Virginia almost went to Trump. I remember looking at the tally thinking to myself, holy shit, it's a Republican. Is Donald Trump going to win Virginia? He just barely lost it. He got walloped last night. He got walloped. So this idea of Trump, barely winning Virginia, but all of a sudden getting walloped, that's a change. That's a change. What takes place in 2018? What takes place in 2020? I don't know. But I'm skeptical. I am skeptical, unless Trump changes, that he's going to win that. Now, again, to some degree, it depends on who they put up. It does depend. If they put up Christian Gillibrand or somebody like that, then yeah, Trump may win that. If they put up, what's her name, Kamala Harris, yes, Trump may win that. That's true. That's fair. That's fair. But even then, put it this way, we'll have to see in 2018. If it's one of those things where 2018 comes around and Democrats punish him, like if Republicans gets punished in 2018, then 2020, yeah, 2020 may not look good for Trump. I'll put it that way. That being said, I still make the point that progressives, leftists, whatever the left want to call themselves these days, whatever, I don't care. 2018 and 2020, man. And the reason why I say that, this is the weakest president in the history of presidents. This is your opportunity. That's all it means. There needs to be a free-for-all and a street fight in regards to the 2020 elections and making sure that you get your person in that slot. And if the DNC is going to cheat, you need to burn that shit to the ground. You need to burn it to the ground. There is no way whatsoever or no reason that you should elect somebody and put that person in that office against Donald Trump if that person does not represent your interests. And if there is any cheating, if there's anything they'd even look bad, I would even argue, even if they're super delegates, you shouldn't vote for them. You shouldn't vote for that party in that situation. If Donald Trump is going to win again in 2020, let Donald Trump win again in 2020. I would rather him win again in 2020 than give him my vote to a rate process. So, yeah, I disagree with HA on this one to some degree. It kind of just depends on what takes place between now and 2020. I would say that the left needs to make sure that their person is in that slot, because of anybody to run against, I would rather it be Trump. A ham sandwich could be Donald Trump. So that doesn't mean that any random Democrat could, clearly. But a ham sandwich could, definitely. Entire oligarchy indicted. The Nation article, our revolution candidates won big last night, 8-17. Yeah, they did. They did. Vote for Holly Diamond's peace stuffs. Holly Diamond's peace stuff. The way Trump trolls and ruins other elites is an endearing quality. It is. It is. I gotta be honest, it is kind of funny. I find myself enjoying Donald Trump's tweets. That sounds... it's true. It's absolutely true. I can't help but laughing at him. Robert Pouquet-Ray, Kumate, Bloodsport reference. Ah, I remember that. Van Damme. The miraculous Van Damme. D. Martin, mainstream media and DNC are doing their best to give Donald another 4. Yes, they are. Trump thrives in a street fight brawl, and that type of environment motivates Republicans, not Democrats. SSS. I am talking about in the primaries. I'm not talking about in general. I'm talking about in primaries. BB Hammer, OR or JD are controlled oppositions. Oh, our revolution. Is there anybody that not considered controlled opposition? Honest question. Is it like... I'm not saying this because I know the answer to this. If you want to say Justice Democrats, okay. If you want to say our revolution and some of these guys are outright socialists, is it every person in our revolution, or is it just the group itself? What's the... Our revolution supported the successful Maine voter referendum to expand Medicaid coverage in the state, according to the Nation's article. There you go. X Factor 541. Jamal, your controlled opposition. Ugh, God damn it. Nobody told me. Nobody told me. Thank you for telling me, X Factor. I didn't know. Yeah, BB. They're all full aggressives. To Bite Enriquez. BB Hammer, Green Party or Indies? Yeah, agreed. You know, it's wild. Independents, when they were looking at their voter thing, only 8% supported the parties. Only 8%. That is a magnificent gap. That is a magnificent gap. If only Trump were not tweeting as president. It's more than a tweeting, Trudy. Dax Jacobson, controlled opposition or false flag, whatever. Yeah, everything is a controlled opposition or false flag. Gardner, if the party is willing to work with them, they're bought. That is the litmus test. You know, the funny part is, the socialist candidate in Richmond, well, he wasn't in Richmond, he's in Virginia. They didn't work with him at all. They didn't work with him at all. In fact, they pulled their funds and resources. Our revolution is groupthink. Parties are groupthink. That's what a party is. That's literally what a party is. What do you think a party is? I mean, the whole point in being a part of a party is because those people aggregated around certain ideas and platforms. I mean, it's like saying, you have 100 people who are part of a party and each one has different ideas. Can't get anything accomplished. This idea of a big tent is fucking insane. The party needs to be specific to its purpose. So yeah, of course they're going to be groupthink. D. Martin, the upvoting window is now open. It's a judgment call, and only time will tell who's right. Mark P. Exactly. Exactly. Luca Clemente. Yes, Trump is an entertainer. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Absolutely. The way Trump trolls and ruins other elites is an enduring quality. Yes, it is. Oh, David McCall. Yes, David McCall is here. Jamal is so full of shit. So full. He's so full. Oh, I love it. It's endearing. I love it. I love it. David McCall is awesome. I love it when I like it because it's like somebody who's listening to you, but they continue to listen to you even though they think you're full of shit. That is magnificent. That is magnificent. I love that shit. David McCall can talk dirty to me all night if he's going to sit here and listen. That's fucking amazing. Nina was doing damage control and issuing apologetics for DNC during the Unity Commission. Shut up, Gardner. Yes, she was. Yes, she was. And yes, there's this, but Nina Turner is also the person who's like, hey, we may need to start another party. This don't look like it's working. We may need to start something different. Now, you can say that's controlled opposition. Maybe. Jamal is paid in gold-dipped Russian prostitutes. He is Putin's puppet. You know, it's funny. Speaking about Putin's puppet. RT, Russia Today. They have, oh, let me show Lucas. Bernie's running against a Justice Democrats will be excellent. That would be funny. Yeah, that actually would be pretty funny. Russia Today, RT, they have openings for commentators. Like, they're looking for people who are like commentators, I guess, like Ed Schultz and some of those guys. I filled out a resume and sent it off. I am fucking curious about this. Personally, I don't think anything will come to it. It's the courage of hopelessness. There is no chance that XYZ will take place, so fuck it. Do it. So yes, Putin's puppet, controlled, whatever. You know, Vladimir Putin with a hand in the back and all this good stuff. The funny part is when they on the page itself that was showing the job advertisement, they were like, do you want to be controlled by Russia? Like they went full into the Russia thing. It was fucking funny. I'll take Gold Dip R, you prostitute, or 3. David McCall is Jamal's arch enemy. Luca Clemente. I don't have arch enemies. He's a hater, but he's a good hater. Red Economics. Nobody ever pays me in Russian prostitutes. Have you ever asked? Have you ever asked? That's on you, Red Economics. That's on you, man. Me do. Somersville, Massachusetts. All 7 alderman candidates who were endorsed by a local affiliate of the Bernie Sanders inspired Our Revolution won. Boston Globe, November 7th. If we're having this conversation about Bernie Sanders being broken, and I've said it, just because you were broken in the night, let's be epic. Let's be epic. Let's be flamboyantly epic. The last Batman film, not the shitty Batman Superman film, but the last Batman film where it was Bane, and Batman is somewhat older. He's not necessarily in the best of shape, and he goes out and he dons the mask and the cowl, and he goes out into the streets beating up criminals, punching men in the face, using his money as a superpower. And he meets Catwoman, and Catwoman introduces him to Bane. And Bane breaks him. He just lifts him up, breaks his back, throws him in a tunnel. You will support Hillary Clinton. I will support Hillary Clinton. And Batman was a broken man. Now, that being said, Batman eventually crawls out the tunnel. Batman fights Bane again. Doesn't necessarily do great, but he ultimately wins in the end. Just because someone was broken in the moment doesn't necessarily mean that they're losing for in perpetuity or eternity. Again, I make this point, on the day after the election, Sanders was out there throwing punches, starting Our Revolution, which was somewhat antagonistic towards the party itself. Now, you may disagree with his intentions, you may disagree with his motives, but judge him from his own context. From his own context, you started an organization. That organization put up candidates, and those candidates won. Now, I don't know how many Justice Democrats won. I didn't mean to bring that up. I haven't looked it up, to be fair. Somebody please look that up. How many Justice Democrats ran? How many Justice Democrats ran and won? But Our Revolution did magnificently well. Give him the credit, man. He earned it. He earned the credit. David McCall is Jamal's friend. I already watch RT and I love it. I like RT also. Now, you must understand though, RT has its bias. It doesn't seem that way. RT has its bias. RT has its clear bias. Its bias being, it wants to be this kind of spoiler in the United States, which means it wants to support progressive movements. Fair enough. I will take advantage of the fact that RT wants to support progressive movements. And yeah, I watch RT. I like it. The Inside Game will now win tens of millions in debt. Yes. Red Economics, good point, Jamal. Yes, it is. You need to ask for Russian hookers. Robert Puquet, no golden herpes, please. Yeah, fair enough. Nobody wants herpes. BB Hammer, Matt West, not going to happen as long as Bernie colludes with Democrats and spouts Russian propaganda. Yes, he's 100% right, Stevie. Will it last to 2018? That is the question. That is the question. That is the operative question. Will it last to 2018? Chaos is good. Chaos is good. How much chaos will Trump cause? And if that chaos persists to 2018, then the answer is yes. The answer is yes. If Trump changes, the answer is no. Trump could change, by the way. Trump could change. He's not more to anything. I don't necessarily think he's a fixed thing. I think he may lean a particular way based upon the winds that are pushing him. But he could change. He could change. That's why I'm not so in this camp of he's automatically going to lose in 2020 or he's automatically going to win in 2020. Gotta see what he does. Hey, if RT can stand Tom Hartman, they can stand anyone, Barbara Mercer. RT is pretty legit in many respects. They've got some good people and their bias is advertised openly. Yes and no. I mean, I've heard RT make this argument that they didn't necessarily have a bias. They lean left and right. What? the fuck ever. There's an interview between one of the people for RT, one of the anchors, having a conversation with Slezhov Zizek. And Slezhov Zizek is getting into this conversation where he's talking about, she's asking him about violence in the Middle East and freedom movements. And she's like being so insistent, and Zizek is talking about this kind of emancipatory violence. I love that word. My wife jokes because I love that word. But he's having this conversation about this kind of emancipatory violence, and she's so adamant that it's like her bias is showing. Like, it's so over the top. She's so over the top with the Russian perspective on this that her bias is so clear and so out in the open that you can't help but look at it and say, okay, that's immensely biased. She has a perspective that she's trying to get across. This is not one of those things where the anchor is dispassionate and it's just asking questions. No, she has a point of view. Everybody does, though, if you're a human being. Yeah, Tom sucks. Hedges is legit. I love Chris Hedges. Chris Hedges is a goddamn lion. His perspective on porn, I completely disagree with, but otherwise, Chris Hedges is a lion. But he's a minister. He used to be a Baptist minister. So for him, porn is this thing of, put it this way. I think Chris Hedges' issue with porn would go away if they weren't paid for it. If that makes sense. Like, God, I don't want to take this in this case. We're talking about the Democrats, so we're already in a seedy conversation. So fair enough. If I'm paying you as a woman to do porn, or for that matter as a guy to do porn, are you doing it because you're getting paid and you need a job and you need cash and you need to make your ends meet? Or are you doing it because you want to? Now, I would imagine there may be some people out there who are doing it because they want to, but I also would imagine there's a large number of people like everybody else who are doing it because they need a paycheck. That becomes a little seedier in cases. In Chris Hedges' mind, he looks at this stuff as being abuse. And he looks at it as being detrimental to the individual over a period of time. Hell, maybe even traumatic in the moment. But the individual puts up a certain amount of illusion to keep themselves in the industry, to keep themselves going because they need the cash. The problem with this is human agency. Like, in any situation, you get into this problem of human beings doing certain things that human beings want to do. All sorts of people do really horrible things for cash. Are we going to stop at prostitutes? Or are we going to stop at people in porn? I understand where Chris Hedges is going with this, but it's just a hard conversation to make. I get where he's coming from. I just disagree with him. Are you really going to tell people that they can't do X in this case? I'm one of those people who believe drugs should be legal. I don't necessarily think the government should get involved telling people what they should or shouldn't take, or put people in cages because you decided you wanted to use a substance. This person decided they wanted to use crack, and now the government is saying, all right, since you use crack, we're going to put you in prison for your own good. That's great. That's great. As if putting them in prison solves the issue of why they were doing crack in the first place. I would say the same thing about porn. Why are those people feeling the need to do porn and making a law saying that you can't do porn? Is that really the way to deal with that particular situation? Chris Hedges is a socialist. He would probably deal with the issue of capitalism first, but at the very least, I know he is very adamant about porn. His books, he's unequivocal about that one. And his speeches too, he is rabid about it. I would love to see Jamal. What was that? Somebody was kissing me on the ego. I am a Venus and Aries, and I love kisses on the ego. Jamal was a total voter turn on Virginia. I voted for the Libertarian candidate, believe it or not. Nobody represented my interests on the ballot, so I didn't get their vote. I would love to see Jamal on Redacted tonight. Crozet Isles. I met Lee Camp at a distance, if that makes sense. That sounds so immensely pathetic. I saw him across the room. He was at the Convergence Festival. And cool guy. He looks like Jesus. He has this hair that flows like Jesus when he walks. He came across as somewhat of a loner, didn't necessarily like the fanfare. He seems cool. I met him at a distance. He is going to be in Richmond, believe it or not. He's going to be here with Tim Black December 2nd. I was thinking about going to see them. When Batman said, "Pray to me," that was something else. Damn. Robert Puquet, pray to me. That's intense, right? That's intense. What was the other thing that I heard that somebody said that I thought was immensely badass, and I can't think of the quote. I've said it before, I get enamored with the language. I get enamored with the language. Sometimes people say things in a way where I'm like, oh my god, that's badass. That's badass. Pray to me. Pray to these. I'm saying pray to me, but I'm saying it in my Batman voice. Redacted tonight is for absolute losers. David McCall, ladies and gentlemen. David McCall. He is in peak hater mode today. Tabitha Enriquez. Brazil is doing this to separate the old DNC. Yes. Some dumb Democrats will believe they've cleaned up the corruption. Tabitha Enriquez, yes. Yes, yes, yes. 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 You know, it's funny. When I first came out about the Donna Brazil thing, that first video, I thought to myself, but I chastised myself because for whatever reason I couldn't complete the thought. But I was like, are they doing this to throw some people under the bus to save the patient? Like, am I taking out the kidney to save the person from dying of some kind of toxemia? My thought though was, would these other Democrats get on board with that? And they didn't seem to get on board with it. It was like they were too stupid to get the hint. If they would have said, yes, Donna Brazil is right. Hillary Clinton and Obama was the problem. Deborah Rossman Schultz was the problem. Those guys are out. We've turned over a new leaf. We have a new DNC, etc., etc., etc. You would have had a lot of people who said, hey, look, right there. They cleaned up their act. They cleaned up their act. Not so much. Not so much. Donna Brazil looks to be best-selling #5 on Amazon. Well, she came out and made the point that they cheated. Yeah, I would imagine it would be. Correct. RT has a clear bias, but offers a different perspective. That's what it values. Gardome, exactly. Agreed. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. BB Hammer. RT doesn't censor his host or guest. That's a fact. Just like Svesti Ventura or Lionel. Because they didn't say anything to challenge RT. Like, it wasn't a situation where they said anything that went against the narrative that RT wanted to put out. That's all. That's all. They seem to be... Put it this way. When Bush was in office, think back. George Bush, he's in office. George Bush is gross. He's doing bad and disgusting things. He's invaded the country on the premise of a lie. He's using drones to murder people left and right. George Bush is torturing people. They create a link between Saddam Hussein and 9/11. George Bush. George Bush. The same guy who gave these massive tax cuts. George Bush. That guy. George Bush's approval rating when he left office was like 30-something%. Now, when MSNBC was challenging George Bush, when Keith Olbermann was going after George Bush every night, he would have a special comment. He would rail at George Bush. He would be sliding around in his chair and looking at different cameras and whatnot. Keith Olbermann, that lion back in those days. What is your perspective of Keith Olbermann now? Is that the same guy? The same guy who was going after George Bush is the same guy that said Donna Brazil lost her career when Donna Brazil came out saying that the DNC cheated Sanders. He wasn't railing at the DNC for cheating Sanders. He was annoyed at Donna Brazil for revealing the fact that they cheated Sanders. Perspective. It's perspective. Of course, they're okay with the things that these guys are saying because these guys are challenging the United States. That's what they want. That's their bias. It's just so happened their bias coincides with your own bias. So it doesn't seem like a bias to you. But it is a bias. If you're a human being, you have a bias. You have a context to which you view and understand the world. RT's one is just antagonistic towards the power structure of the United States. You understand that from a Russian perspective, having somebody in that office that's more conciliatory towards Russia is better for Russia. That means that it is advantageous for Russia to have a progressive in that office. It just is. He's going to be less inclined for these imperial wars and everything else. So yeah, if you needed to set up some kind of broadcasting thing, have at it. I want to set you up. I'm going to give you a certain bias and have at it. The progressives in your country don't see the bias. They don't see it. It's folks functioning from their own context, so they don't see the bias. Chaos is a ladder. Chaos is a ladder. Missed that, had distraction here. Jamal, you should have a laugh track button like Redacted. I'm not a comedian. What's his name? He's a comedian. Lee Kent started off as a comedian, if I'm not mistaken. That's why it's a laugh track. I wonder if RT's narrative is the same in the States as it is over there. I don't speak Russian though. Probably not. I suspect their narrative is probably for them. I suspect it's probably for them. Like I said, I would argue that the context of RT is somewhat of a progressive context, because they want somebody in that office who's more amiable to their position on things, or less antagonistic towards them. Let's put it that way. Having neocons in that office is a threat to Russia. So yeah, they don't necessarily want these people in that office. RT is a great source for that, or a great source for that particular context or that dialogue. I'm skeptical that what they have in Russian media is the same thing that they have on RT. I suspect RT is for English speakers. I wouldn't say they advertise their bias, neither would I. In fact, I don't think they advertise their bias. In fact, I don't think they advertise their bias at all. I've even heard them say, we say things to the left and we say things to the right, we're in the middle, etc., etc. I think they're full of it. RT has a sense of humor about itself. They had a segment during the Hysteria saying mainstream media more Russia than more Russia than Russia Today. They have a sense of humor about themselves because they want to destroy the narrative. They're trying to downplay the narrative, if that makes sense. Look, if you and I are having a conversation and you're accusing me of something, I have multiple ways that I can deflect what you're accusing me of. One of those ways is to downplay it and pretend as if it's lunacy. Russia Today's way of dealing with this is pretending as if what they're saying is lunacy. To some degree it is. Yeah. The Democrats are trying to find another Obama with. Yes, that's true. Man, I have a short attention span tonight. I'm going to have to rewatch this. Trudy, this is all over the place. I'm not sure if you're going to get much value out of rewatching this. This was just a bunch of people hanging around talking about all sorts of anything. Honestly, that's all what this is. It started off as one thing, and at this point, we're just hanging out. RT is like, yes, you too, comrade. Felicia is a basic witch. The comrade thing always trips me out. Chris Hedges sees porn as a destructive element. He would go on and on about it. Yeah, he does. Oh man, he rails. Have you seen him rail about porn? He is intense. He is intense. I would not mention porn around Chris Hedges. He would punch somebody in the eye over porn, man. Yeah. X Factor 5 for the one. Jamal likes some BBW porn. Don't tell Chris Hedges that. Don't tell Chris Hedges that. He would never have me on the show. Axe the Hammer. Well put. Yes, Zizek. He called the 2016 election. I got dragged for sharing his vigs. I love Zizek. I love Zizek. Chomsky hates him. Chomsky. Don't get me wrong. Zizek can be in the wilderness sometimes, but sometimes he hits on some really fucking fascinating points. Now, here's the thing. There's a difference between a philosophical context versus a political context. Sam Harris has gotten in trouble with this kind of philosophical thing in political circles. And Zizek has gotten in trouble with this kind of, again, a philosophical conversation when you're bringing in politics. Politics, man, it's just a different animal. Politics deals with this kind of real world phenomenon. Philosophy deals with this kind of conceptual thing. And sometimes people... Yeah, sometimes those things don't mix. Zizek is fucking amazing. I love him. I love him. I like the way he pronounces things. That was one of the things. He was having a conversation, and he says, the forever hysterical question of a woman, why do you love me? And there's so much about that right there by itself that I love. The hysterical question of a woman. I love this. Because would he have said hysterical in the context of a man? Probably not. You know, this hysteria thing was what they would consider women. I was like, all right, this woman is hysterical. She needs a, they used to force orgasms or some insane thing in order to get rid of hysteria, this kind of weird thing. But making this point that The very fact that somebody is an observer means that they can never understand the subject to which they're observing. Even if you can understand the properties of that thing that you're observing, you can never actually understand the principle of what it means to be that particular thing. Meaning the fact that you're asking me, why do you love me, means I can never answer that question. Fucking love that guy. I love that. Yeah, I love Zizek. I love Zizek. Absolutely love him. Like I said, Chomsky hates him. I've never heard his viewpoint on porn. His books are good, though. His books are really good. Now, keep in mind, like I said, he used to be a minister or preacher. And so he still has that bearing, even in the way that he gives his lectures. It comes across as him being a minister. His books are good. They can be a little dry. They can be dry. But his books are good. B.B. Hammer, Robert Pouquet-Ray. Abby Martin criticized RT on camera about their Crimea coverage. They didn't fire her. She left a few years later. She was supposed to be part of the Russian propaganda over Hillary Clinton's report. Pouquet-Ray, Abby is great too. Abby is great. I like her. They also soft pedal Chechnya. Yes, of course they would. It's a Russian perspective. Hedges doesn't want to lose his gig. No, Hedges doesn't want to lose his gig. Sam Harris is a sandboxer. I have no idea what that means. I feel like I'm playing 7 Degrees of Separation when I listen to him. Many of his arguments are so far removed from on-the-ground realities. I gotta be honest, I don't listen to Sam Harris all that much. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't know enough about Sam Harris to say one way or the other. Dax Jacobson, I'm from Virginia but live in Vancouver. I missed the part about who won in the West. 2, I have dual citizenship. If it's any comfort, Canada is as fucked up as the United States. It just hides it more. Well, at the very least, BB Hammer, you have healthcare. If nothing else, if everything else in Canada fails and falls apart, you can drag your ass to a doctor and they'll take care of you. You won't get a $20,000 bill to boot. I'm going to claim the fucked up title for the United States. I think Hedges is brilliant. I just don't agree with him on everything. He is an apocalyptic preacher. He is dark. He has gotten dark. Have you heard his recent... Oh, man, he's gotten extremely dark. Yeah, he has. I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I've seen it written that Vladimir Putin is a mad truth teller. What the fuck ever. I've seen he's a terrible liar also. He may be a terrible liar, truth teller. Look at his... he has a conversation with Oliver Stone. It's like hours and hours and hours long. It's fucking insanely long. I listened to every last word of it. Truth teller my ass. There may be things that Vladimir Putin may say about the United States that may be true, but we do fucked up shit around the world. So it's like having a Democrat say things about Republicans. Yes, what they were saying may be true, but it doesn't necessarily give any context into their own behavior. That's kind of how it was with Oliver Stone. He's saying stuff. It's like, okay, well, that sounds about true. Yeah, but what about you? Like, is Vladimir Putin going to tell me that he has all of these spying equipment all throughout Russia and everything else? No, he's not. WikiLeaks said that. He's not going to tell me that. I mean, it's contextual. It depends on what he's trying to get across. Yeah, it's totally contextual. Canada has the worst single-payer system among Western modern countries. BB Hammer. Dax Jacobson, but Canada has to pay for parking sometimes when they get free healthcare. Are you serious, Dax? Yanis Varoufakis, Greek finance minister, is smacking Euro debt vultures left and right with his book tour. Yes, he is. You know, Varoufakis wanted the Syriza government to leave Greece. To leave the European Union. And I suspect he should have been right. When they got in power, god damn it, this shirt. When they got in power, in his mind, it was, look, if they don't fall in line and give us some debt relief, we need to be willing to leave. If we're not willing to leave and we're not willing to if we're not necessarily willing to fight on this front, then what's the point? Meaning you're holding a referendum. You have the power of Greece behind you saying, no. I mean, you call for a referendum. Think about that. You're the leader of Greece. You're the Syriza party. You're the far, far left party in Greece. You're like the Green Party in the United States. And you run on the platform, we're not going to take any shit from Germany. We're not going to take any shit from Germany. We're Greece. We're Greeks. We're the mother of democracy or whatever. And you get in office and you say, we're going to hold a referendum. And we're going to get the power of Greece behind us in order to deal with the European Union. And you do that referendum. And overwhelmingly, they tell you to tell Germany and the European Union to go fuck itself. 2 days later, you fold. 2 days later, you fold. And at the same time, destroying any legitimacy to the left-wing party in Greece. Varoufakis, in his mind, don't fold. He didn't want to fold. And I gotta be honest, I kind of agree with him. It's not that I think your bank's shutting down is like this awesome thing. Nor do I think it's not that I think your bank shutting down is awesome. And I fully well understand it if your banks are shutting down. I understand the pressure they were exerting on Greece in this way. But you called for a referendum. That was you. You called for a referendum. And the Greek people came behind you and said, yes, we got your back. Do what you have to do. We have your back. Do what you have to do. And you fold. I call for a referendum. Why run in the election at that point? If the other government could have folded, why you? It's like if you're going to do that, stand up. Stand up. Varoufakis had this kind of plan on how to stand up and everything else, and they overrode him. They didn't want to go that way. Love Varoufakis. I love Varoufakis too. Trump will hang North Korea boy out to dry. He's going to take a couple of small nukes unless he runs to China. Good work, DJT. Better sooner than later. Donald Jr. Trump. Donald, I don't know what J Trump stands for. Oh, I guess he's saying Donald Trump. I don't know Trump's middle name. Donald Trump will hang North Korea boy out to dry. Yeah, that's not. No, he won't. Any attack on North Korea is essentially an attack on South Korea and an attack on Japan overnight. He's going to take a couple of small nukes unless he runs to China. And again, no, he's not. I'm sorry, dude, your political acumen is 1E. David McCall. Yep, I was happy with the result of Brexit. European Union induced capital flight in Greece. They were looting one of their own members. It's more cannibalism. Yes, agreed. And Brexit, same thing. Agreed. I wasn't sure how I felt about Brexit. Sometimes they cast those things in terms that aren't necessarily indicative of why those things are happening, if that makes sense. So the left cast it as, oh, these people are just racist, that's why they're leaving. In the same way they cast it here, oh, these people are just voting Trump because they're racist. It had more to do with just being racist. You might have had an element that wanted to leave because they were racist, fair enough. But let's be honest. That wasn't the entirety of the reason why those people wanted to leave Brexit. And that wasn't necessarily an entirety of the reason those people might have wanted to leave. Or Grexit, with the GRE, meaning Greece. Matt West, the fucking troika. We think we have problems. Yeah. Yeah. Like, so imagine a situation where you're a state. Now, the European Union is trying to treat each of those countries as if they're states. Meaning those countries can't run deficits. They don't necessarily have control over their monetary policy. All of their monetary policy is essentially handled in Germany. Yeah, Germany, Brussels, one of those. Essentially, it's not handled in the country itself. Even though those are countries. Meaning, if your country is in a deficit, how do you expand? If you have a situation where you have somewhat of a closed economy, meaning all of the European Union, and each country, if one country runs a deficit, somebody else is running a surplus. So if Germany is running a surplus, put it this way, those countries can never spend more. They can't necessarily run deficits in the way of like printing cash and all this other stuff. They can't have these things, these stimulus programs that a country like the United States will have a stimulus program. We control their monetary policy. Britain could have a stimulus program. They control their monetary policy. Greece, not so much. Not so much. The countries that are part of the Eurozone, not so much. They've lost all control of their monetary policy. That's not a good place to be in. It's not a good place to be in. Varoufakis understand the political gain in capitalism. It's about the pain to get to a better place. Varoufakis has this idea of this kind of universal basic income based on stock market. Like, so he's talking about taking a certain amount of stocks from the stock market and putting them to the side and using that money as a fund to give each and every person. I don't know if he means in the United States. Well, I would imagine he's talking about Europe since he's European. But I suppose the same policy would work for the United States. It's an interesting idea. Very interesting idea. Oliver Stone's Ukraine on Fire. CIA, America, McCain, Obama all installed phobia. Total neo-Nazis empowered in Ukraine rather than allow Ukrainian president to stay in power. Yes. Paul Manafort. It is beyond obvious the same interests were spreading the same messages in both the United States and the UK in regards to Trump and Brexit. Yes, the stories mirrored each other to a certain degree. Not just that, even the Sanders and the Corbyn thing. Like, the arguments that they were using against Corbyn are the same arguments they were using against Sanders. It's amazing. It's almost like they recycled it. Absolutely amazing. BB Hammer. Me too, yes, true, but Canada's provincial systems have been undermined over decades. They keep cutting coverage. Healthcare outcomes are worse only after the United States. Yeah. The best bigly bomb of all presidents. SSS. The Eurozone is the deflammatory doomsday machine. Isn't it essentially the same as Berner's Wall Street speculation tax? Oh, that's a good point. It may be different, but probably amount to the same thing. It's like a wealth tax. Maybe. That's a good point. Maybe. Maybe. Canadians have winter. It kills many parasites, just not liberals. David McCall, ladies and gentlemen. David McCall. Canadians have lower infant mortality rates than Americans. Yeah, lower death rates also. America has the highest death rate in regards to, yeah, Americans have high death rates. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, when the financial crisis hit, countries that had universal health care did not show an increase in death rates. You know what country did? The United States. United States. David McCall, LL, kill liberals. Oh my good gracious. Racist somewhere, yes. The bankers spoke against Brexit, saying it would lower housing prices, affecting those investments, while many are homeless and hopeless, while their bankers thrive, yeah. Canadians have legit reasons to hate the left. Some of the shit that goes on up there is absurd. I gotta be honest, I haven't watched Canadian politics. And maybe I should. I love Prime Minister questions, PMQs in Britain. I even watch Scottish Parliament. I just like politics. I don't speak French. Can't understand theirs. New Zealand, Australia. Australia's is funny to me. Australia's is funny to me. I don't mean to joke Australians. Yeah, I don't mean to joke Australians, so I'm not going to joke Australians. But, hey, it's like I don't mean to joke Australians, so here I am joking Australians. One of the, I was watching one of their, I don't know what they call it. I guess they call it PMQ in Australia too, or something similar. But they were having this back and forth. The Australian Prime Minister and the other guy. And the other guy, well, the Australian Prime Minister, one of them, sat in his chair and turned his chair all the way around with his back facing his opponent. It's the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. It's so over the top. It was so over the top. It's fucking comical. It's absolutely comical. Amazingly comical. Alright, I'm going to end it here. We're 2 hours in. And at this point, this is all over the place. It's just us talking. I enjoy these, which is why I stay so long. For the most part, it's just me running my mouth and hanging out. So, guys, I appreciate you all coming out. Well, not coming out. You guys didn't come out of anywhere. You probably are in your underwear. So, I appreciate you guys staying up and tuning in. Let me say it that way. You guys have a good night. Thanks, guys.